Welcome to the Savvy Dentist podcast with Dr. Jesse Green, the show where great dentistry meets great business. Listen in each week as we bring you an inspiring person who will share their story, ideas and business techniques to help you create a practice and a life you love. And now introducing your host, Dr. Jesse Green.
Hello everyone, it's Jesse Green here. Welcome back to SavvyDentist.com and to the Savvy Dentist podcast. It's great to have your company for another episode of the show. Now, one of the things that we hear when it comes to running a business is that sometimes the easy part is actually the clinical work. Now, just hear me out. I know clinical work can be difficult. I know it can be taxing. I know it can be trying. But when it comes to running the business, what we hear often is that the people part is the hard part. But the key to having commercial success of any kind is understanding people, understanding yourself, understanding your patients, understanding your team. And it's really important to have some language around that so that we can A, understand ourselves and understand how others experience us and how we can get the best from our team. So today I'm joined by Lynne Schinella, and Lynne is an amazing human being. She's done incredible work in the corporate space for a long time, in training, keynote speaking, consulting and so on. And she has a wonderful way of looking at behavioral styles, and it's called the fruit system. And so I'd really encourage you, A, to take a visit to her website, lynneschinella.com.au, and take the quiz there. You can find out what your particular behavioral style is and how people might experience you when you're at your best and how people might experience you when you're not at your best. But the key to this is, again, about understanding. Firstly, understanding yourself and then understanding others. And what I spoke to Lynne about, which I think is really important, is this sounds great in terms of culture and understanding people and having a nice harmonious workplace, and all of that is terrific and it delivers on that in spades. But I also put the question to her is like, what are the commercial outcomes? What are the results? What are the numbers? What's the impact of this in our practice? And there's some really hardcore commercial reasons why this is going to make sense for you to be good at the people part is going to absolutely improve not just your bottom line, your financial return. It's going to improve your ability to create leverage, to scale up, and of course, your enjoyment along the way. So again, I'd really encourage you to head across to Lynne's website, lynneschinella.com.au, and check out the quiz there. But for now, I really hope that you enjoy this interview with Lynne. It's fun, it's interesting, and as always, please have a pen and paper handy because she shares some absolute pearls of wisdom and some real nuggets of gold. But here she is, without any further ado, Lynne Schinella. Hey Lynne, welcome to the Savvy Dentist podcast. It is fantastic to have you here. How's things with you?
Living the dream, Jesse, up here in Brunswick Heads.
Well, it is, really defined as God's country, as I say. It is a beautiful part of the world, and sunshine, beaches, what's not to love, right?
Mountains, rainforest,
the list,
rivers.
The list goes on.
Northern Rivers is gorgeous.
So I'm curious to ask, what took you to the Northern Rivers?
I have always loved this area, and at the risk of sounding sort of a bit woo-woo, which is very fashionable around here, I never feel more at home than when I'm here. I never feel more grounded, and every time I visited, I feel like I just belong. And when I'm coming back from, say, Queensland over the border, there's a little bridge across. You get across that bridge and all the greenery and everything opens up, and you feel the weight actually lift off your shoulders. I feel really privileged to live on Bundjalung country. That's no doubt about that.
Beautiful. So, Lynne, you have had a really strong corporate career, of course, over a period of time, and you're known for being able to help people work with teams, get the best out of the teams, and you've had a lot of experience in that space, and of course you've developed your profiling techniques and tools as well. And I'm just curious to ask, before we dive into what that all means and how it unfolds, that's not the typical thing you put on your career form as a 17-year-old.
What, fruit chick?
Fruit chick, yeah, I know. I think of fruit chick and I think of fruit and veg stands and all that sort of stuff. But no, fruit chick is probably a good description. How did you become a fruit chick?
Nothing strategic about it, Jesse. Let me give you the short version is that my first business had crashed and burned in spectacular style after 10 years. I needed work. I was a single mum with 2 children. Somebody said, "Can you teach?" I went, "Yep, I reckon I can do that." So I went and enrolled in a certificate of training, like the least thing that I could do. I went, okay, I've got that now. How do I become a trainer? So I rang up a well-known business college and said, listen, you got any jobs for trainers? They went, no, we've got nothing. The only job available at the moment is for a sales trainer. What do you train in? And I went, sales?
I do now, right? I do now.
So I paddled really, really hard and worked really hard to become a trainer, and I was good at it, and I loved it. And from there was a natural progression into, well, for a lot of us who are trainers, into conference speaking and keynoting. But the fruit came about because I was completely naive of any personality or behavioural profiling until I was training it. And I've always been intrigued by human behaviour. I went, oh, this is really fascinating. I like this stuff. It's really easy. My company is called Ripe. So I developed this pop quiz around apples, mangoes, limes and bananas. And it didn't matter what great work I was putting out there over the last 20 years, everybody wants the fruit. And so I thought I would end up being something a little bit more cerebral, but hey, I am really happy being the fruit chick.
Yeah, well, it's obviously worked out really well. And
Yeah,
I want to unpack what that is in a second, but you mentioned something that was kind of caught my attention a moment ago, and you said you've always found people fascinating. What is it about people that you do find so interesting? Because I do too, and it's quite an interesting study to think about why people do the things they do. So what is it about people that keeps you curious?
It's a fine line. Sometimes we're so predictable. So, for example, in the work that I have done over the years, you can see the patterns that emerge. But I also love the wild unpredictability of us. Sometimes just seeing or what's fascinating is the way that I see it more in myself, the way that we react to certain situations. Like, for example, I might get really angry, or I might get upset, or I get indignant, and you think, wow, that was a really strong emotion. What triggered me to react that way? And if you start unpacking it, there's always a reason. There's something that triggers a particular thing in your life, which is why psychologists have a field day with our childhoods, you know?
Yes. Yeah, understanding ourselves, understanding others is, a pretty human kind of experience, whether it be in the workplace or, in the home. You've obviously spent your professional life in the workplace, understanding teams, helping teams become better, stronger, more, I suppose, productive in a sense, more efficient, more everything. I'm just curious to ask where this sense of understanding first reared its head, and why is this an important thing for leaders and teams to get a handle on, and what do you see? I can think of some of the benefits, but you see it at a really granular level as well as a high level. Why should people really engage with this kind of understanding, whether it's a fruit test or others? What is it about this sort of work that is valuable?
I can probably illustrate this best with my own story. So obviously we all have strengths in the way that our personalities are. So mine are all around people, engagement, building relationships, building culture, connecting. I'm good at that stuff. What that means is the stuff I'm not naturally good at, numbers and finance and stats. Stats. So when you put that in front of me, it's like I'm wading through red jelly. Everything just goes into slow motion, and I have to work really hard to grasp onto it to stay there. So in my first business, I did all the first stuff really well. We had an engaged team. It was an awesome team. Our customers loved us. Customer service second to none. We won awards. We did fabulous events and things like this. Why did it come undone? Because I didn't care about the numbers. I didn't care about the stats and the research and the finance and everything that really counted. And it blew up in my face. And at that point, I knew nothing about different personality traits and different ways of behaviour. But I lost that business because I was only focusing on half of my brain. And it's why I'm passionate about leaders accessing all different parts of their brain to get good at leading a team and running a business. So for that alone, from a leadership point of view, that alone is worth understanding. Like, don't just go with one thing. Go, I'm not good at that, so I don't go near it. You have to get good at it. You don't have to get brilliant at it, but you have to get across it. And then at the next level down, by understanding more about yourself and your team and the people around you, the more we understand about each other, the more we respect each other. We were talking before we came on air about lack of respect in certain areas. It's because people don't understand, and what they don't understand, they fear. So there might just be someone at work that I can't stand, but I have to take the time. Because you don't have to like everyone you work with. You don't have to have them home for a sleepover, but you do have to respect them as a human being. So if you understand more about other people, you have a chance to get inside their heads and go, I wonder what Jesse's thinking. I think that Jesse is thinking this way because I know him more, because I've taken the time to understand him more. And I am coming at him with full barrels, talking too much, using too many words when he just needs a nice, succinct bullet point answer, which is probably what you're thinking right now, Jesse. Anyway, that's the point, because then you get to know people better and then things work more smoothly. There's more respect. When they work smoothly, you're going to get more done. You're more productive. And at the end of the day, you get to go home on time. You know what I mean?
And you're right. I love a bullet point. I was smiling to myself as you were speaking, not because you were speaking so much, but I was reflecting on actually my lovely wife. She's amazing. She's gorgeous. She's got so many good things going for her. And I was actually thinking about, we're both dentists, and how we write our clinical notes so differently. And hers is sentences and paragraphs and beautiful prose, and mine is bullet points. Boom, 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 boom. And it's just made me laugh. I'm like, when I read her notes, I'm going, oh my God. And when she reads mine, she's going like, where's the texture? I'm going like, it's the fact. Yeah. So anyway, it's
right there.
It's right there.
Yeah.
So it's interesting just to know, even in our own relationships, there's those differences. And one of the things that we talk a lot about in business these days is culture. Great culture, great people, all those sorts of things. One of the things I've noticed in cultural conversations recently is the focus is on having really great relationships, but neglecting the commercial outcomes that need to occur, or the performance elements of culture as well. And so I totally understand and appreciate that getting to know one another, the team harmony, the dynamics, and all of that. What I'm just curious to ask is, what does that translate to? This is the Apple in me coming out, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it's a very Apple question. Where's the result?
Yeah.
Where's the result? I don't care. Happy team, whatever. Just give me
just
the result.
revealed my true colours right there.
Anyway. It's true though, and it's an excellent question, because you can't just do what many people see as the fluffy stuff for no reason. I mean, it's nice. Yeah, it's nice. Everybody gets on, la. But there is a very tangible result in this. So the first thing is that, I guess, if you go back to understanding, taking the time to understand each other, therefore we will connect better, we will collaborate better. The first thing is, in terms of a practice, your people become the best marketing tool that you have if they are working as a friendly, collaborative team, right? And you can tell when you're in a dental practice. I sometimes, if it's something new or whatever, you know when the team are getting on really well.
You can feel it.
And you go, this is a nice place to be. Now, it's not the first place that you think of when you go, oh, I want to do something nice today. You don't go, oh, I'll go to the dentist. But the people, that's the first thing. They become a great marketing tool. How do you measure that is the next question. The other thing is that you will get longevity of staff because they're happy, they feel comfortable there, they have a leader who is valuing them and recognising them. Every time someone leaves, they cost between up to 200% of their salary to replace. So straight away, you are saving money. And then long term, because there's less gossip, less stress, less narkiness, less Jesse having to manage two people are having a thing about, an upset about something. Your team will be more productive. So you're going to see more patients. When you're more productive, it will translate to the bottom line. Whatever you do, measure where you're at before you put this into your culture. And this is long term. Like, you don't get the result that Apple wants in 30 days. But in 6 months and 12 months and 2 years, measure your productivity and your actual and your profit. Measure your bottom line and just see what impact it has had. That's the way that you'll get the result.
Yeah. Could I ask you just to give people a bit of an overview of some of the basic characteristics of the individual fruits, and equally when an apple is at their best, this is how they show up. And equally, when an apple is at their worst, this is what you might observe. Just so, again, in our own selves, we can see whether we're kind of at our best and at our worst.
First of all, it's really important to understand that what I do is pop psychology. There's a bunch of incredible profiling and sophisticated profiling systems out there. Mine is not one of them. So it's designed to be done in a fun environment really quickly, but still deliver some value. So please, I need to preface it by saying that. And all of us have traits within us. We just have them at different levels. So I will give you extreme traits in each so that your listeners might be able to recognise them in themselves or others. An apple at its best is a great decision maker. They don't muck around. They're direct. They are fast. They are big picture thinkers. They can grasp things very quickly. And they're logical thinkers and they're natural leaders. At the worst, they're considered impatient, rude, aggressive, blunt. Why are you smiling, Jesse?
Yeah, I'm just going tick, 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 mental checklist right here. That's me.
But
yep.
This is other people though, right?
Yeah,
so
you're totally
what
right.
you think is being efficient, other people go, he's rude. Why hasn't he said good morning? Right? Because you're being efficient. So, that's sort of an apple at their worst, they're bullies, at their worst, because they're really strong characters, apples. They know what they want. They're all about winning, results, competition, control. These are really critical pieces. A mango is sort of, as suggested, sort of big and juicy and sexy and messy. And a mango loves life. They're really positive, glass half full, everything's fun. They love variety and adventure, so they lift a team up. They also have big ideas, but nothing is impossible to a mango. So a mango is like, yep, I can do absolutely anything. They love an adventure. They like excitement. They get bored really quickly. They hate the rules. At their worst, they talk too much, talk over the top of you, finish sentences for you. They're messy. They talk too loudly. They don't follow through, and they disrespect the rules.
Yeah. Okay.
Which brings us to the closest mango friend, the lime, who loves the rules, and they are precise, accurate, love order and systems and procedures, and they are excellent at spotting the gaps in a big plan. So when the mango or the apple goes, I've got this great idea, lime's going, yeah, it's never going to happen. And this is why, because they're very logical, very detailed thinkers. They are often introverts, and they see, because they spend a lot of time in their own head, they see the world as they see the beauty in things around them. So often they love aesthetics, and they're often creative, but you might not see that in a work environment like a dental practice. But at home, they might do beautiful gardening, painting, sculpting, whatever, music. A lot of limes are musicians. At their worst, they are nitpicky, overly critical, judgmental, and micromanaging. I apologise to all the limes out there, because already you're going, no, I'm not. And I know you take it personally because you're really sensitive.
Yeah.
It's okay to be you.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. It's okay to be you. And we all bring something to the table.
Yeah.
So what does that bring me to? The soft banana. So the banana is beautiful, soft, kind, patient, bucket loads of empathy, really good at blending a team because they care deeply about everything. They love harmony. They just want everyone to work in harmony, everyone to collaborate. They're great team players. At their worst, they are passive-aggressive. They hate conflict, so they won't stand up, perhaps in an argument. And that's probably the biggest complaints that I hear about extreme banana behaviour. But remember, for your listeners, I'm talking in terms of extremes. So there's a lot of grey areas between all of those things. And remember that we're all a bit of everything. We just tend to work in our top two preferences, particularly under pressure.
Let's talk about that under pressure situation, because some of the other profiling systems, you might have a label which people might not love the connotations or the inferences or even kind of the misattribution that can occur with such a label. And I love this idea of apple, mango, lime, banana, because it's pretty innocuous kind of stuff. Can we just talk about that labeling system for a second? Because I think it's actually really clever, and I think it's really good because it does make everyone okay to be themselves. And I think that's a really important point that I know you touched on, but I'd just love to linger on that and why the labelling occurred the way it did.
So apples, are hardcore. The mangoes are sort of, messy. The limes are highly concentrated. They're never the star attraction, but you absolutely cannot do without them. And bananas are soft and mushy and sweet. The thing is, when I started it was just a bit of fun, as I mentioned earlier. I think the success of the fruit, because there's a million different profiling systems out there, I don't claim to be any different except that I use fruit. And the use of the fruit, the big plus is that it's blameless. It's just a blameless language. So it doesn't matter what other labels. So you can put labels on all, and we use labels loosely, we use them for fun, really.
Yeah.
But it's because it's blameless. So if I say you're being aggressive and anal, that's inflammatory. If I say, just for a moment, I need you to take off your apple hat and I need you to bring out your inner banana. It makes people look, at best, it makes people smile. At the very least, it helps diffuse a potentially awkward situation. So once your team has done any sort of profiling, and if they've done the fruit, they can use this language that it really is blameless. So even though a tough conversation might be coming, you can refer to the fruit in terms of trying to solve that.
Yeah, I really like that because I like that non-blameful communication, because you're right. If you use different labels from other systems, it can come across as a bit, like the words are open to interpretation, which means you can misattribute things to those individuals. And I think, what are you going to say about an apple? Are you a green apple or a red apple? Yeah,
are you a granny? Are you a pink lady? People have fun with it more than anything else, Jesse.
Yeah, it's great.
It's just like, you're a rotten apple.
Yeah.
Stop it. You're overripe. Like there's heaps of people just end up having fun because it's so silly.
Yeah. But I really like that because you're right. I think it brings communication. It probably opens up communication in a way that wouldn't otherwise be opened up. And I really like that. And I think, though I understand it occurred by happenstance, I actually think it's actually really clever.
Well, it's lasted 20 years, so something's working.
Something's working.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about the team and the team dynamics and, thinking in the context of a dental practice, what does a fruit salad team look like? And if you're thinking of particular roles, would you have a particular fruit in mind for a given role?
You might, but I also will caution against ever using this as a recruitment tool.
Yep.
So once again, pop psychology, never use it as a recruitment tool. However, you'd be looking for certain traits in a person, obviously. So someone on the front desk needs not to be the door bitch, right? Yeah. They need to be they need to be pleasant, friendly, kind, caring. You come into a dentist, a lot of people are nervous, anxious. So they need to be probably leading with their inner banana, but you'll also need lime because lime is great at admin and detail tasks. So banana lime is someone that you might find on your front desk. Your OHTs, your health therapists also would be good at relationships because they're the ones that often, I understand, help build the relationship in a practice, while the dentist, the clinician, might be doing different work. And let's face it, it's hard to build a relationship when your mouth is open. Only one person is speaking.
Yes, that's true.
The clinician themselves, they're going to be, by nature, they have to be precise, accurate. This is what I want my dentist to be anyway.
Of course, yes.
Detailed,
yes.
Smart, and be able to see everything very clearly and logically. So by nature, I think you'll find a lot of your clinicians are apple-lime combinations.
Yep.
But automatically that means, if that's their strength, like if you remember the story of me and my business, the opposite, they may not be as good at the people stuff.
Yeah.
So as a leader, they have to work extra hard to make sure that their team feels valued and recognised, because an apple doesn't need recognition because they know they're the best, right? They just walk around going, yep, I'm awesome. But they forget that other people need that pat on the back.
Yeah.
So in your practice, I see that there's a role for everybody in a dental practice. The mango banana are the people skills. The lime brings the admin, the order, the processes, and getting things right. And then, of course, the dentists themselves. If you're a mango dentist, I'm a bit concerned.
Yeah. And I guess maybe you might be a mango at home and an apple at work. Can you be that, or is that not really doable?
No, you can. It depends who you live with. So let's assume that you're living with somebody, and let's say we take the example of, and I usually talk in top two preferences because that's where we sit. So say you're an apple lime at work, or you're an apple lime and you live with a apple mango. So you come home from work, and because you both have a big slice of apple, you then will fall more into your lime, which is all about keeping the household accounts, keeping order, understanding the finances, things like that.
Yep.
And the other person, if you're will automatically fall into the mango, where they're the funsters. They plan the holidays and the events and the new cushions. So, but at work, you need to be apple lime. At home, you don't need to bring your apple home because you've already got some apple there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. And
it just depends who you're living with will bring out different things in you. Like if there's no one around to be the apple, well, it's got to be you.
I think that I'm just reflecting on my own home dynamics, and I'm thinking about who's who in the house. And
tell us about it.
Well, I'm obviously apple lime. You've probably picked that a mile away. My wife's a dentist as well, so can you have diagonals, or do I?
Yes, you can have diagonals. They're really confusing because when you meet a diagonal, you're never quite sure. So the apple banana, for example, she sounds like that.
Yes.
She sounds like she's got the sort of the warmth and the friendliness of the banana. She's got the clinical approach of the apple.
Yeah.
So you meet her at a party, at a barbecue, and you go, I've met this lovely person. She's so nice. Thought I'd go and, have a game of pickleball with her. And then you meet the smiling assassin.
Yes,
right?
that's exactly right.
Because no one guesses. So, if I believe they're around 15% of the population are diagonal, which is apple banana or a mango lime.
Yeah, so I think she's an apple banana. And what's really interesting, I was reading, we got a review on Reddit for the practice. I didn't even know Reddit was still. I know, like go figure. And this lovely person who I don't know whose name, I think it was like a pseudonym, described my wife as a literal saint. And of course, she was feeling very happy and content about that. And then we played Wordle, and I can tell you that she was not a literal saint at all.
That's right, because you bought the competition in.
Totally.
You play Wordle together. Is that who gets it quickest, fastest?
Yeah, and we play other games. Usually Wordle is a little bit more her thing, and I get called in if she needs a hand. But if I happen to get the word, then of course our competitive nature comes out. So in our house we have family Uno. Lynn, and so it's a blood sport, and
I understand.
There is no room for whining. There is no room for anything, and so it's pretty competitive in our house.
No, I understand it. I have a very, very apple friend, and a long, long time ago, the last time I ever played a board game with her, she physically pushed me off a chair in order to get to a piece.
Oh wow.
I'm like,
wow.
You're dead to me. That was it. No more board games.
Are you still friends? I just need to ask, are you still friends?
Oh, no. She's an awesome friend. And I like all the fruit, but I do love apples because you always know where you stand. They have this absolute killer streak if they're extreme. Like she's an really extreme version, and she's an amazingly successful human being. And whenever in my business life I've had to make a hard decision because it's not where I come from naturally, I always think, I wonder what she'd do. And then straight away I go, okay, well, that's probably the way I should be going. So, yes, we are still friends, but, she'll only do things with me that she can win. Do you think about it? You think about it. That's what apples do. They only do it if they can win. So in the pool, she'll sprint because she'll win, but she can't last more than a
couple of laps. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
right?
okay.
So I'll always win long distance.
Okay.
So apples don't like to fail. Anyway,
apples do not. Apples do not. Yes, that's okay.
Who wins at Uno?
It's a bit varied because I think our kids have got. Well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So I'm going to say. But there is a lot of mockery that goes on, so it's not uncommon for either of my daughters to do the loser symbol dad or whatever. And
nice.
Yeah. So there is a leaderboard though, Lynn. I like seriously. There is a leaderboard on the fridge. You win the game, you go and give yourself a mark. Like it's like that. So
Yeah, a little Apple household. That sounds great.
yeah, it sounds like harmony, doesn't it?
Perfect. Harmony looks different to everybody, right?
Yeah, exactly. Lynne, you've been in this space for a long time, and as we've kind of alluded to, you wouldn't have been in this space for a long time if this was not working, if it was not delivering value, if it wasn't, enriching the lives of others. What is it that you wish leaders understood about understanding people that perhaps a tool like this might reveal to them? What is it, if you could whisper in their ear and say, hey, you need to kind of figure this out or look at this or think about this or consider that?
That's a really good question. I think because in our world, until quite recently, most leaders have been Apple limes. So sort of post-industrial revolution. For a long, long time, it's like, do as I say, I make the rules, everyone does my stuff.
Yeah.
More recently, they have morphed, but even so, and it's not that all the fruit can't be leaders, it's the ones who want to be and who really fight for it. So I see more and more apple mango leaders, but they're both they're big picture and they're driven and ambitious and competitive, and they're about results, which is critical. What many leaders don't understand or consider soft is that if you have empathy for the people around you, if you learn what motivates that individual, you will get the most out of that person, and that person will then deliver for the business. But if you don't take the time, if you just go, look, I can't stand him, he's a dickhead, he's out, let's manage him out of the company.
Yeah.
That's what I wish, that there would be more empathy. I believe that the world needs a bit of kindness right now.
I think it does too.
I think it's maybe time for kindness and empathy to take a rise. It doesn't mean that you're soft, you're weak. Brené Brown talks about this all the time, but I really believe that leaders being vulnerable is one of their biggest strengths, and I think it takes courage to be vulnerable. And I see so many leaders that just they don't want to show that because that looks like weakness. And I don't want to show empathy because that looks like weakness. Just get over it, because you'll build a better business, to your own ethos, build a practice and a life that you love. And you don't get that without caring.
Lynne, just to wrap up our conversation, because this is really fascinating, and I know that a lot of the work that you do is, in the consulting work that you do, is often targeted to large corporates, and I know that there's some video training that people can access if they want to. I haven't had the opportunity to explore that yet, but I'm just wondering if people want to explore this particular system of yours embedded into their practice. Can they do that themselves? Do they need to hire you or some other accredited practitioner in your system? How can people access this? Because what I love about it is its accessibility, and that's what I think is really useful. It's not big, it's not complex, it's practical, it's fun, it's easy to understand, and most importantly, it's implementable, and I just love that. So how can people implement this?
Can I just get that again, Jesse? That was a wonderful little ad. That was perfect. I'm going to grab that.
Yeah, you can take the recording and use it wherever you want it. Yeah, but I really mean that, because I have used lots of different systems in the past. I have used DISC, I have used 5 Voices, I have used Human Synergistics, and they are all great. And so I don't want to sound like I'm speaking ill of anything. I think they're all wonderful. I
think they'll have a place. You just choose the one that works for you. And mine doesn't work for everybody. I understand that. No. If you want something really sophisticated, it's going to take a few days, really drill down, this is not it.
No, but I love the accessibility piece around this. And I love, like you said, the fruit is blameless. It initiates conversations that you might not otherwise have had. If you said, like before, Jesse, you're being aggressive and anal, I mean, that's going to put someone on the defensive up front. But if you say, dude, Apple, come on, it's a different conversation, and that's what I love about this. And I know you said it was happenstance. I actually think there's a little piece of genius in there, serendipitous though it may be, but genius nonetheless. So
I'll take that.
How do people access this?
Jump on my website. Everything is there. I do a lot of conference speaking, but I also can do some training in-house. If you have a range of clinics, it might be worthwhile to get me in live. If you're a small business, though, it's still accessible. I don't have any accredited trainers because I'm a control freak, and every time I tried to do it, it didn't work out. So that's why this business works as opposed to my last one. So what I did was develop 10 short videos and put them in a video training program. So small businesses can access those and they can actually run them in-house. But if you just jump on my website, you'll get a little bit of information. If you want more, obviously, please feel free to give me a yell if you think. Happy to chat things through with you, even if it doesn't work out, for you, if it's not right for you.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you for that. And again, I think the people part of business is actually really important. The clinical side of the skill set it's not easy, but it comes with practice. But where I think most dentists struggle with their practice, probably like most small business owners or medium-sized business owners, is people. And anything that helps you understand not just other people but yourself and your own tendencies and why you do the things that you do or how others might experience you, I think is really valuable because it allows you to hopefully reflect on your own leadership, be a better leader, develop other people into better leaders, and as you say, that has huge productivity gains for the business as a whole. So I really appreciate that.
If you don't have self-awareness, you can't help others. You must be aware of your strengths and your challenges. I was listening to one of your podcasts, Jesse, of a beautiful man. He was a dentist who was he built several practices. Hitesh
Doshi, yes, the nicest human being you'll ever meet in your life.
What a beautiful man he was. And I loved listening to him and his style of building a business and the fact that nice guys can actually succeed, In
your fruit analogy, he is a banana through and through. He is soft, he is caring, he's empathetic, he is the nicest human being.
He's the nurturer in your 5 voices. I remember that,
He is the nurturer in the 5 voices and his team love him, but he's also able, as he's grown, he'll tell you this himself, he's had to channel other elements of his nature for different roles.
As you must.
Yeah. So thank you for that. I'll tell Hitesh that he'll be stoked to hear that.
And if your listeners haven't listened to him, you should be listening to him. That's a great podcast.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Lynne. I'm really grateful for your time today. You've been very generous. We have gone a little bit over time, but I enjoyed the conversation so much. And I just want to say thank you. Do head across to Lynne's website. We'll put the links in the show notes. You can find it there. Click on the links and head across. And I appreciate your time once again.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you for listening to the Savvy Dentist podcast. For more episodes, go to drjessiegreen.com/savvydentist. And to discover how to build a high-performance dental practice, visit drjessiegreen.com and download the free report.